Jennifer Graziano of Zion Memorial Chapel and Coxe Graziano Funeral Homes. Jennifer is here to discuss a sensitive subject we all need to talk and think about. Here now is Jennifer Graziano and Time to Talk.
Good afternoon, Westchester. It's 12 noon on Wednesday, and that means it's time to talk with me, Jen Graziano. I am a licensed funeral director who oversees my family's funeral homes, Coxe and Graziano of both Mamaroneck and Greenwich, and the Zion Memorial Chapel of Westchester. Every Wednesday, I come to you discussing important topics and sensitive matters that all of us need to pause and reflect upon at some point. And through this show, I'd like to provide a platform to do so. If you're joining us on the air this afternoon on 1460 WVOX, questions, comments, and calls are always welcome to 914-636-0110. And happy to have Tim Judge here operating our Facebook Live, and we will take your comments here as well. So a very sensitive topic today that we're going to be speaking of, but a very important one nonetheless, because I believe there was a lot of trepidation and misinformation that surrounds the concept of hospice. So we want to dispel some of the misconceptions, and we want to talk about the benefits. And I'm joined by Loretta Lacci, who is the executive director of Fairfield County House. It's a compassionate end-of-life care house, exactly that. I can tell you, having toured the facility when they opened not long ago, it is beautiful. It is a residential home, a beautifully configured, brand new residential home in a beautiful residential part of Stamford, Connecticut, shortly over the Greenwich border. But I'm going to let Loretta talk a bit more about the philosophy, their mission, and how Fairfield County House came to be. So welcome, Loretta.
Thank you, Jen.
I had the chance to work with you kind of on the circuit in our mission to educate and talk about uncomfortable topics, because right up there with funerals are hospice. And the hard part is to try to let people know that you have to talk about this, and you have to have plans in place, and you have to do your homework. And it's so hard to get people to even get into these conversations. So talk a little bit about, first of all, your background and how you came to this organization.
Well, by training, I'm a registered nurse and a patient care navigator. I was on the board for Fairfield County House for probably 6 years before we opened. This concept came about around 10 years ago, where a nurse who was on our board, Linda Tucker, has been in hospice care for a very long time. She wanted to build a house that was a residence and not very hospital-like, but yet we provide very high acuity care because we're working with hospice licensed agencies and the plan of care for each of the residents that come.
So you are a home. Like I said, you're a beautiful, brand new built home. People come there with their own hospice nurses there.
Yes.
So you have a different model than most.
We are the first model of our kind in the state of Connecticut. So we're licensed by the Connecticut Department of Health as an assisted living. Everyone that comes to our house has a licensed home care agency that's licensed in the state of Connecticut. And what they do is they would assess the person coming to our house, develop the plan of care, and when the person comes to our house, we have either a registered nurse or a licensed practical nurse and a certified nurse's aide 24/7, whether we have one resident or we have 6 residents. So we never have more than 3 people to 1 staff member.
Okay, so very, very good ratios for the patient, very high level of personalized care.
And so the hospice agency would, based on their plan of care, come in to see that person maybe once or twice a week for an hour, maybe send an aide in once or twice a week for an hour. And then we're there communicating any changes, providing the medication administration, nursing care around the clock.
So it's care on 2 fronts. The care that comes from your facility, and then the care that the patient brings with them, their own private care. If a New York resident wanted to come and experience this model, obviously, again, once they come to your facility, you have your team. Do they have to then look for an agency licensed by Connecticut to take their care. Okay,
yes.
so it's possible for a New York resident to go,
Yes.
and I want people to know that.
Exactly. We've had a New York resident in our, we've had a couple in our, because their loved ones live in the area. We had someone who has come from California because their loved ones were living in the area. The only constraint with that, and it's a kind of a simple thing to, facilitate, is that they need a doctor that can write prescriptions in Connecticut.
Right.
And they also need a licensed agency, which we can give them names.
Again, I mean, there's so many now that, because the proximity of Westchester and Greenwich, I know like the Osborne, for example, they have, people know them from New York, but they have a home care agency in Connecticut.
Right.
So it just requires a little bit of homework to find either a dual licensed or a Connecticut licensed agency.
Right, and if someone has a New York doctor who can't transfer the care or chooses not to because they may not want to take, still follow the person in Connecticut, there are palliative care doctors that will review the records and accept care for that person.
And that's important to know. And I illustrate that because I don't want people to, shut down if they hear Connecticut. I want them to know that this is accessible and close by. It's right off the Merritt. It's just minutes off the exit. I want to just show, Tim, can I just show a picture of this? Because this is the facility, and we're going to direct to your email, to your website, and where people can learn more. But this is, in fact, a home. This is a beautiful home. You have a kitchen facility, and I remember touring this with you, and it was so well thought out. If a family is there and spending time there, they can make a meal, they can gather. There's a living area, there's a family respite area. Can you kind of walk us through how the home was designed?
Yes, so the house was completed probably around 18 months ago. And it was a labor of love. We had in-kind donations, we had a state grant, and we raised money to build this beautiful house. So it's 10,000 square feet, 10 bathrooms, 6 private resident bedrooms with their own ensuite bathroom with high-end tiles. And
Absolutely.
then the patio is private, so people can go out on the patio and have their privacy. Then there are more community rooms, like a family room for gathering, and many times you have multiple families in that room, and it just seems to work, or you have residents, if they're well enough, in there. A beautiful gourmet kitchen where we cook for the residents, but family members also can cook and have lunch there if they'd like. We have a beautiful den, which people can utilize with a very large screen TV, and a sanctuary where they can go in just for quiet meditation or to have a meeting or just to kind of relax. Upstairs, we have 2 respite rooms, which are beautiful rooms. They're more like living rooms where family, if they don't want to leave the building, can go up and relax or do some work, sleep, take a shower. So those rooms are available. We do a lot of, we do a bereavement group up there for the community. And we also have a boardroom, which we throw birthday parties in. We've had multiple birthday parties for our residents and their families.
Wow.
We also do community events. We had Dr. Coletti, who's a palliative care doctor.
She's wonderful. She's been on the show. She contributes to the magazine. She is wonderful.
Yes. So we had a dinner, and then she presented on the role of palliative care and maintaining dignity, and it was very well attended.
So I'm glad that you brought that up, because you and I have had this discussion before. Oftentimes patients are getting to you when it's so close to the end that had they done it sooner, they could have given a better quality to the last days of their life. And I've had this discussion with Dr. Coletti as well. There's such a stigma in hospice that people think it's just the end. And when in reality, there's a prognosis that's going to come with an illness. That's not changed by hospice. But what often happens is that, and I read the wonderful book Becoming Mortal, where they talk about this as well, or Being Mortal. I'm sorry, I'm a little confused in my titles. Hospice has been known to, if someone had, let's say, 3 weeks to live, perhaps give them 5. And it's just because there's a quality to the days. The medication, the poking and the prodding is over. People are able to have more coherent conversations with loved ones because there's not this continuous influx of medication that impairs speech and cognitive thought. So there's more meaningful time between family members. There's more of a comfort given. And some people just feel that when they accept this, it's a surrender, but it's really not.
Well, unfortunately, you have to get there one way or another, right? We don't really have a choice. No one wants to think about the end of life. So we've had people for 8 hours to 11 months stay with us. And even the people that were there for a short period of time, Connecticut does have one of the shortest lengths of stay, meaning people wait too long to come to hospice. It still was very meaningful for them and for their families. And so that's what we focus on. When someone comes to our house, we still believe there's a lot of living to do. So we look to see what were their hobbies. Even if they're not capable of doing those hobbies, we try and bring some of that in. If they liked gardening, maybe we'll bring them outside to help us arrange some flowers that we've recently purchased and placement of the flowers. So we really try to meet people where they are. But what it is a huge relief and comfort for the families because it's so stressful to be a caregiver, and now they can just come and be a loved one, and they can kind of just spend quality time with their loved one and not have to worry about caregiving, not worrying about getting up and having to change someone in the middle of the night or give medications every few hours.
They could still be there.
They could still be there, yes.
But it allows the relationship to kind of go back to what it was.
Exactly.
And I think that, caregiving is such a beautiful and noble and honorable thing. And it's also one of the most stressful things that you can ever go through. And we talked a bit about this, about the program that we hosted the other night about compassion fatigue and caregiver burnout. Whether you're a loved one or whether you're in your line of work or mine, it's very, when life is continuously placing these sad situations on you, it's very difficult. So I think the ability to give family members back to each other and allow them to have conversations, reminisce, remember the wins and the good times, and to be able to bond through food and activities and things that they love to do, you're allowing meaningful connections.
Right,
in the
and
end.
that's what we do, is we want everything to be meaningful. We had one resident in the house who was relatively young, and her family was dispersed throughout the states. They all gathered, college children, toddlers, high schoolers, and from 5 different states. And they basically were at the house for 10 hours a day. And at one point I counted, we had 25 people for just one family.
Wow.
And that wasn't, it just seemed to work. It wasn't intrusive, it just worked. But after the resident died, the family, the biggest gift to them was that they were able to gather. They were a family that loved to be together and play games, and that they actually had a place that they could come and participate, but they could also run away and hide. And so,
which your facility allows the opportunity for both. It really does.
So everyone's experience is going to be different. You know, we also had a 6-month-old baby that came to visit his Nana from overseas, and he was with us for 10 hours a day for a month, and the joy that he brought the other residents.
I'm sure.
In his jolly jumper, there are not other settings that you really would be able to have that quality.
No, and I will say, as a protective parent, you wouldn't think twice to bring a child there. It's a beautiful home. There's nothing institution-like about it. You really have a hard time wrapping your brain around where you are. And I think I told you this last year. My mother's best friend passed away in a hospice facility in Florida. And it was right before I met you. And I remember thinking, we have nothing like this here. That facility, it was called Joanne's House. And it was founded, a woman passed away who was under the care of this hospice. And it was a grant that allowed them to build this. And it was beautiful. And there were no stretchers that came through. There was there was patios, there was privacy. And it was a home, and everybody would come, and they'd have the meeting areas, and you would forget where you were for a moment. It was just time to be with somebody that you loved, but you didn't. It's even a much more beautiful, and even compared to that, this is so discreet that you just feel like you're driving to a house in the neighborhood. I mean, it mimics the neighborhood. There's not even a sign.
We don't have a sign.
I was going to say.
We're
I know I got
in
lost.
a residential neighborhood, so that has been a challenge since we've opened. But people find us. We have Google Maps, and so we are really
well
special.
As of August, this past August, you had served over 39 residents and their families, and the ages ranged from 39 to 98. It's hard to think about. It really is. Seeing youth is in that stage. It's the worst. It's the worst, most unexplainable thing. You like to think that there's a circle of life and an order of which we're supposed to pass, but I credit the people that you have on staff, and I know that you're not just choosing anybody to work there.
It takes a very special person to work there because there's a lot of grieving. We get very attached to our residents and their families, and
you go through it with them.
We go through
and you
it with
can't
them.
separate that.
We may
when
be
you
crying
go home
with them. We may be hugging them. Even before they come in, there's just an empathetic ear because it's such a, everyone in some way or shape or form has been through it with a grandparent, with a parent, so that people can really empathize with the families and the residents that are coming to us.
And I think you have to in order to be, in order to really connect in that line of work. It's hard. I mean, there's a school of thought that says you have to shut down the emotional part, but I argue that doesn't, if you're not connected to these people, then you're not doing your job to the best of your ability.
Right.
And I know for me, you don't go home at 5 o'clock and shut it off. It's just always with you. You don't forget those cries. You don't forget those faces. But hopefully you use it to fuel you to go forward and keep on your mission.
Yes, I mean, I think the thing that fuels us is to know what a difference we made in someone's life.
Absolutely,
because
absolutely.
It's sad. It's hard to lose people. People grieve in different ways. And so we try and also address that with the staff and have intermittent, in services regarding that because they really suffer the losses also.
I agree. I credit you for recognizing that as well. So going back to Fairfield County House, you are referred to as an assisted living residence and not a facility.
Correct.
So assisted living residence, does it have to be in the end of life state or do you go back a step to a highly skilled nursing need?
Well, our mission has really been to look at people at the end of life.
Okay.
So it's really compassionate end of life care. Generally, for those who have been certified hospice, which is less than 6 month, life expectancy, any disease, ALS, COPD, CHF, dementia would qualify. We have extended our role because we've seen a need.
To a life-limiting disease, you call it.
Right, a life-limiting disease, which would be a lot of any disease really, but like a lot of, let's say, ALS or Parkinson's, a lot of the neurological diseases.
Which are awful.
Which are terrible, and it's a long, journey, but we're not looking for people who have a life expectancy of more than 2 years.
So, but you have come back to that 1 to 2 year window. So it's not as immediate anymore.
Right. As long as, our main goal is the end of life care. So hospice.
So they can't have a DNR.
They must have a DNR.
They must have the DNR and they're not amenable to returning back to a hospital facility.
Returning. Okay. And that's really, so they are really probably going to go to hospice. But it's for those families who really can't, really deal with the illness anymore, and this person needs pretty, intensive care.
I want to talk a bit about your services. Again, many valuable programs and services. The 24-hour care team, including RNs, LPNs, and CNAs. CNAs
is a certified nurse's assistant.
Nurse's assistant. Okay, a volunteer program. Creative arts program, the garden program, spiritual program, bereavement counseling, Reiki and aromatherapy, pet therapy. I'm sure pets are very welcomed in your facility. I can't say enough about that. What is the SAFE program?
So the SAFE program is something that we just identified, and we recently got a grant from the Southwestern Agency on Aging in Connecticut. And it's the Senior Access Fund and Education. So part of the role of myself will be going out to the community to speak to people who may not have the funds to access our care, and just to educate them that these services are here and a life care is available to them. There are special applications that need to be filled out, and they must qualify.
I think that's important as well to let people know, because sometimes limited funding holds people back from services that they need. So this is something that, again, I'm going to connect everybody to you, so hopefully they can learn more. And once again, this is a 10,000 square foot home. And it's funny, it doesn't look it from the outside.
Right.
It's bizarre, but it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Right off the Merritt Parkway, 6 private bedroom en suites with a patio, bathroom. There's a great room, library and den, indoor and outdoor dining, sanctuaries, gardens, a place where children can feel welcome and not afraid to be there. Talk a little bit about who you work with. You work with Hospice Agencies. I know Constellation Hospice, visiting nurse services. In New York, do you know any agencies that you have worked with off the top of your head?
No, I've been in touch with Westchester Hospice.
Okay.
Right.
But Caring Hospice, Vitas.
We've worked with Calvary, but that's more of an inpatient. Yeah.
Right. And talk about volunteering. I mean, do you have people who come to volunteer?
So we have a pretty rigorous volunteer educational program that are trained to come with a focus on hospice. And they come maybe once a week, twice a week. There's many things that they do for us. It could be grocery shopping. It could be visiting with residents. It could be praying with a resident. It could be hanging a bulletin board. Really, people have different interests. Some want more hands-on, and others want to do really more, errand-type things for us. But they're the cornerstone of our organization because they're a great help to the families and the residents and the staff.
Must be a wonderful group. So, Loretta, I assume that the process goes pretty quickly for someone who wants to come, or is it more of a waiting list situation? Can you describe the intake if someone makes a call that their loved one would be in need of your services?
So people usually come to us either through a hospital setting or through the community. Some are in their homes living, and then the families just can't manage anymore. So through a hospital, it usually comes through the palliative care team, the case manager, the social worker. It's just really a phone call saying that the family would like to come to Fairfield County House. An agency is then decided upon by the family, and they will contact them. The agency will come and evaluate the person and then order any equipment that's needed prior to coming to our house. And then we're always ready to accept as long as we have a bed.
Okay.
We did have a full census for 4 or 5 months this year, and with a waiting list. But generally, because the length of stay is so short, generally we do have beds available. And then if they're coming from the community, they usually speak with me, and then I kind of give them direction as to, which hospice agencies we work with and how to kind of facilitate
So
that.
people can contact, you can be the first point of contact as well. Okay. Can you give us your contact information, your website, phone number?
My number, the nursing number, if you need a 24/7 number, is 203-912-9613. They're 24/7. You can leave a message and they will get back to you. My number is 203-921-6405. And the website is fairfieldcountyhouse.org. And on there you can see any of our fundraising opportunities. We do a golf tournament. We are doing a butterfly ceremony in October.
I want to talk about this. This is beautiful. So it's your annual Flight of Life memorial ceremony. That's such a beautiful phrase, Flight of Life. This is at the residence at Selleck's Woods in Darien, Connecticut.
Yes.
What is it? It's a butterfly release in honor of those who have passed this year?
They're silk butterflies. So people can purchase, they can go to our website and purchase a butterfly in varying denominations, purple, blue, red. And then they can tell us who it's in memory of. They come to the brunch. We have a beautiful opera singer this year. And they will be reading the names on a screen. And we generally have, we have Reverend Sala from Stanford Hospital, and we're in the process of having a rabbi participate too. So the names are read. There's beautiful music and some poetry.
I think it's so important because it shows as well that your commitment does not end once a resident has passed. So I credit you. Folks, we've been talking with Loretta Lacci. She is the executive director of Fairfield County House, a beautiful place. In a difficult situation, you need to be surrounded by trusted, comfort, and compassionate professionals. So to learn more, you can contact her directly at 203-921-6405. And again, you need not be a Connecticut resident to go to Fairfield County House, but it doesn't hurt to learn more. Even if you think the need might be arising within the next 6 months to a year, plan ahead. Fairfield County House, the website one more time?
Is fairfieldcountyhouse.org.
fairfieldcountyhouse.org. Loretta, thank you. I look forward to continuing our mission to educate and inform.
Thank you.
And this is Jen Graziano, thanking you for taking the time to listen as we took the time to talk. Have a great day, Westchester. Bye-bye.